So why do we care? Why is it important to have codes? Because you save money, for one thing. You reduce energy consumption. It improves the environment. The savings are significant. If you can keep money in your local community, the multiplier effect of that is quite significant. It's a very important thing to do, to try to drive jobs out of energy efficiency. And if you reduce CO2 emissions and improve the atmosphere, well, that's great. I mean, the concept, whether you believe CO2 issues or not, I mean, the issue is, at the end of the day, we make the world a better place, so why the dickens wouldn't we try to do it? I mean, that's at its base level. So we look at this and we see energy codes and standards, the history. We have the model energy codes for residential that turned into the IECC, International Energy Conservation Code. 90.1 got codified in 1989. We've got the commercial, the federal standards here that are leveraging these and saying thou shalt build to these levels. So this is, in a sense, the history. And now we see on the stair step, you'll see this again later in the other presentations, but what this says is, this takes 75 energy use index as equal to 100. And what we see is with each change in, at that time called the model energy code, we see the improvements, 10%, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1 for many years. And then all of a sudden, whoa, some big steps. Big, important improvements starting in around 2006, of ultimately 30%, because we're starting to see, remember I said ASHRAE, AIA, and others, smart folks who are saying, darn it, we need to get serious about this business for a bunch of reasons, about efficiency in buildings. We need to push the envelope. Well, gosh, I'll tell you, you could fall asleep at the wheel and still probably end up in your driveway up here, okay? You could be designing, you know what I mean? You could be designing to code, right? And oh gosh, the new code's out. Okay, now I've got maybe a lighting power density that's a little tougher. Well, I'll just put in a lower wattage bulb. That's easy. I can do that. But guess what? You get to steps that are 15%. That's a different religion, let me tell you. All of a sudden, you've got to do something that's quite serious. You've got to change the way that you design buildings if you're an engineering firm. And if you hung your hat on building the cheapest possible buildings and designing the same system you've designed for the past 10 years and just building to meet code, then guess what? You're going to have an all-hands-on-deck meeting when that 15% hits the fan, right? Because that's going to have a serious impact on your business. So why build to the lowest common denominator? Maybe you'll end up like General Motors. You build the least efficient, you got to get bailed out. Well, we're never big enough to be bailed out, so who knows? But that's what happened with residential. Now commercial, we're seeing bigger steps at different times, but again, ultimately driving down, we see standard 90.1 and the IECC both moving towards that ultimate goal of net zero energy. It's like perfect golf. It's like juggling with six bowling balls. This is impossible. How are we going to do this? Oh my gosh. But that's where we're driving. The IECC and the 90.1. Now, how you use them. The IECC applies to residential. Now, both apply to small commercial and large commercial, but honestly, what you might often find is that the IECC might be used a bit more often on the small commercial, but when it's larger, you're often going to use the 90.1. Part of the reason is the energy model. At least that's my opinion. The energy model that allows you to deal with more complicated systems and controls of daylighting strategies, of demand control ventilation, underfloor air distribution systems that are a little more challenging to try to understand how you can hit a performance-based target. The energy model, if you start it early enough and it's based upon your design, you can leverage it and you can learn from it and you can improve it to the point where all of a sudden you can simulate various elements, the glazing, the tinting, the solar heat gain coefficients, whether you put a cool roof on, the insulation values in the walls. You develop this wisdom. And you take this tool and ultimately you bounce the design off the walls and you determine what gives me the best life cycle cost impact. Should I consider a 4-pipe system for this? What about airside economizer. What would be the brightest thing for me to do in this building from an energy efficiency standpoint? The energy model is amazing. It can allow you to do these things. And the 90.1 standard has an element in the back chapter, energy cost budgeting approach, that allows you, it lays out the procedure for doing this. So you see that the 90.1 and the IECC have stair-stepped together at alternate times. As they each come out with new versions, they become more stringent as it goes forward. It's the basis for the IECC 2009, ASHRAE Standard 90.1. Purpose to provide minimum requirements for the energy efficient design of buildings, except low-rise residential buildings. That's the 90.2. Why is it important? That is the 2007 version. It replaces 2004, the basis for many voluntary rating systems and also incentive systems. So you'll find that APS Solutions for Business and SRP Business Solutions and the LEAD program, they all tie their horses to different versions of this program, of the 90.1. It's the reference standard for 2009. And where can you get it? Well, that's where you can get it. It's going to be in your notes, but either through the website or you can make a phone call. Other standards, the 189 we spoke about, the 90.2 for residential low-rise buildings, and the 100-2006R, that's the existing building standard that'll come out soon, I hope soon. ICC, created by ICC, the International Green Construction Code, created by ICC, ASTM, USGBC, AIA, and IESNA. Did I miss anybody? I don't think. ASHRAE. Model code approach. So it allows you to, as a community, as a jurisdiction, to select this particular code to become your basis for green building and not just energy efficiency. And it can be an overlay or it can be adopted in whole or in part. So it gives that opportunity. And again, 3 communities in the state. Most states don't have any communities that have adopted this code. But it's Kent Township, Scottsdale, and City of Phoenix. Why? Why should we do this, Mark? Why do we have to do this, Mr. Wilhelm? Well, you don't have to, but you can choose to. And I highly recommend you choose to. So we look at it, tax incentives, rebates, utility incentives, the low interest financing we spoke about, all of these incentives that you can deliver to the owner, or if you are the owner, that you can harvest yourself. And if you are in private business, if you are one who is knowledgeable about these things and bring them to an owner, you might develop a strong relationship and ongoing business.